Believe it when you are told that an ill-gotten gain never benefits. I experienced it today and I bat my fingers for the life I lived. Hello, my name is Loic. I've made a lot of mistakes in my life and I'm going to share my story with you so that no one makes these mistakes again. I was a young boy who had just graduated from university in Yaoundé in my hometown. I left school with dreams in my head and above all with the hope of having a better life after obtaining my master's degree. I had the ambition to get my mother out of poverty. She was a single mother who raised me on her own without having a fixed source of income. No need to explain to you how precarious daily life in our house was. It was difficult to find food with balanced ingredients at home since it was already difficult to put anything to eat on the table. Thanks to small business, Mom somehow managed to pay my schooling until I got to where I am today. So it was only natural to want to return the favor by making her life a dream. Immediately after graduating, I started applying as legal assistant in several local companies, hoping to receive calls to get me hired. I was optimistic. Not only did I have my diplomas, I also had experience since I did academic internships at the end of each school year. Then I also had computer skills in addition to being bilingual, which made me an ideal candidate for the labor market in my country. But this confidence over the months that passed began to wane little by little. None of the companies I had applied for had called me back. I couldn't figure out why, yet I was more than qualified. After applying and waiting for almost a year, I got tired of being humiliated by all these companies that didn't recognize my value. I took my destiny into my own hands and went to a restaurant that did fast food. I asked if there were any vacancies and immediately I was offered the post of dishwasher. I was supposed to take care of the dishes in the restaurant, but also in addition, I had to clean the furniture and the floor before closing every evening. It was not what I had done all these years of studies for, but at least in the end I found something to support my little mother who was now too weak to continue selling tomatoes in the market. During the first 2 weeks, I worked tirelessly and enthusiastically to the point where the trial period that was given to me was validated. I continued to be diligent and hardworking. At the end of the first month, I received a salary of 70,000 francs. I did not complain since that was exactly what was concluded in my contract. So I continued to be a good employee until the third month when things started to get complicated. Due to a fight that took place between two of my fellow colleagues also in the kitchen of the restaurant, a lot of cutlery was damaged. Dishes broken on the ground because of violence that erupted that day, and unfortunately the perpetrators of the fight were not the only ones who had to be punished. I too was involved in the story of repairing damaged equipment, and that's how my salary was reduced at the end of the month to the sum of 40,000 francs. I thought it was horrible and unfair, but I couldn't do anything, so I kept working for fear of losing my job. The month that followed, I again suffered a reduction of salary, again for the equipment damage during this famous fight. Despite my explanation regarding the circumstances surrounding the event, my boss didn't want to understand and once again reduced my salary to 40,000 francs. I couldn't bear such an injustice and decided to hand in my resignation. Once again, I found myself on the street without any job or any other source of income to be able to support my mother. So I made the decision to engage in the sale of clothes as a hawker. The business wasn't that bad, but it was extremely restrictive. I had to get up every day at 4 a.m. in order to be on time in the market when the bundles of clothes were unpacked. All that to have clothes of acceptable quality to be able to offer to the edge of the road to potential customers. Later on the day, I had to stay under the sun with clothes offering them to passerbys who sometimes answered with disrespect. I still remember all those times when I was insulted by passerbys or when I had to sell clothes at a loss in order not to starve. The anger and frustration of this stage of my life pushed me to look for other less humiliating sources of income. This is how during a very hot day I sat in the shade on a public bench with a bag of water in my hand. I still hadn't sold any of the pants that I had sorted in the morning. I was about to get up and continue offering the clothes to passerby when I came face to face with one of my university classmates. Mark was in front of me. The thing that struck me first was his clothing. The material with which his clothes were made seemed to be of superior quality. He was clean-shaven and had a very nice watch on his wrist and a gold necklace around his neck. After seeing how well dressed he was, I felt deep shame cover me. I felt bad that I didn't have the chance to have the same faith as him after college. While he was all clean and beautifully dressed, I was under the sun with second-hand clothes in hand, and I was hydrating myself with low-quality water. By greeting him, he felt my discomfort and reassured me by saying that he understood the realities of this country. Then he offered me to meet him on a weekend for a drink and discuss an opportunity that he had for me. I immediately accepted, and after he left, I was glad that he didn't judge me, but also was grateful that he offered me an opportunity. I was impatient for the weekend to arrive so that I could finally discuss this famous opportunity. In addition, it was the first time that I had such sum of money in my hands. I took the opportunity to stock up on food at home and put the sum of 100,000 francs into my mom's hands so that she would lack of nothing. The smile that she gave me immediately warmed my heart and made me want to do more. So I continued with this activity. I scammed again and again. At home, I had a box full of banknotes, but during the same period, business started getting dangerous. I had made so many victims in such a short time that Interpol services were actively looking for me, and I had to get out of the country very quickly. I moved my mom into a luxury apartment in the outskirts of the town, and I gave her enough money to support herself for 6 months, and I fled to Dubai, where I intensified my activities. My primary goal was to be able to make enough money to invest back home. So after making all of the arrangements, I left. Once in Dubai, I moved to Jumeirah district, and I resumed my activities with a coded IP address and continued to scam people. For the first few months, I was doing pretty well. The police searches had stopped, and I was starting to make a lot of money again. But as it is often said, evil is like quicksand. The more it engulfs you, the desire to have more pushed me to touch the occult forces to maximize my gains. On the slide, I had to return to my country to receive the approval of a witch doctor that had been indicated to me. It was then that I returned to Cameroon without informing my mother, or without even telling her the activity in which I exercised for fear of being judged. I was directed to the coastal town of Kribi, where I had to meet the man who was going to give Mark and I spiritual baths in order to become rich. Once I arrived his sanctuary, he told us that it was necessary to carry out the bath in question at the edge of the sea at midnight. We accepted the ritual. We had to wait for the hour to arrive. When the time came, we did the ritual, which consisted of dressing in a red attire and candles and giving a goat as sacrifice to the water spirits. At bath time, an abnormal wind began to blow around us until two extremely beautiful women with long black hair appeared. These two women were spirits who were supposed to bring us wealth and opulence on one and only condition, that we were loyal and faithful to them. We had accepted the terms and conditions of this pact, and back in Dubai, by resuming my scam activities, my profits were multiplied by 10. In no time, I was able to buy myself a Maybach with which I strutted the streets of Dubai. I quickly rented a luxury apartment in which I lived while respecting the conditions that were given to me in my country. Financially, I didn't complain. I had everything I dreamed of in a silver platter. I even already started my mom's construction site. I wanted her to live in a castle, and it was within my means. The months passed and I gained confidence. I gradually disconnected myself from all the conditions that had been given to me. And in addition, I met a young girl for whom I was gradually developing feelings. The manifestations of the pact that I had made were slowly beginning to be felt. I felt feelings of unease every time my girlfriend came to see me. My activities were no longer working as before, and strangely enough, even the construction site that I had started for my mom was no longer progressing due to repeated thefts of equipment. Everything was so bad that I had to sell my car. A few months after money shortage, I had to go to a pawnbroker where I intended to sell my most expensive jewelry so that I could have money to survive. I was able to have the sum of $2,000 with which I rented rented a small room for a period of 4 months. In this room, I still had the spirit of hustling, so I stored marijuana that I intended to sell so I could make money. I was slowly starting to climb the slope when the police burst into the pawn shop for a story of non-reimbursed money. The police proceeded to make an inventory of all the goods found in the shop and to collect the names and owners of the jewelries and other items present in these premises. That's how they got my contact and my address. And when they came to my house to ask me questions about the money story, they discovered marijuana that I was keeping. Then they took me into custody and launched investigations on my person and discovered the whole series of scams that I had carried out from Cameroon until I moved to Dubai. That's how I got arrested. Having gotten in contact with the witch doctor who initiated us in Cameroon, he told me in parable that my misfortune had its origin in the non-respect of the conditions that had been given to me, and that I could do nothing more to appease the spirits with whom I had made this pact. The time had come for me to pay for all my evil deeds. Today it's been a year since I was arrested, and I was sentenced to 15 years in prison. All the property I was able to acquire was taken away from me, as well as the house that I had given to my mother. I am the shame of the one I wanted to please the most in this world, all because of my bad choices.